As we grow older, attractiveness is not just about looks, it's about energy, attitude, behavior, and how we treat ourselves and others after 60. Many people actually become more appealing because of wisdom and calm confidence, but there are also certain habits that quietly push people away without them realizing it. Today, I want to talk about 8 unpleasant behaviors that can make seniors seem less attractive, and the good news is, every one of them can be changed. One of the biggest issues is constant complaining, when every conversation turns into a list of aches, problems, and disappointments. People slowly stop engaging. Sharing struggles is human, but living in non-stop negativity drains the room. Gratitude and balance make a person far more pleasant to be around. Another habit is neglecting personal grooming. Style does not have an age limit. Wearing clean clothes, maintaining hygiene, and taking small care with appearance signals self-respect. It doesn't require expensive fashion, just effort and awareness. Being overly critical of younger generations is another turn-off. Saying our time was better or dismissing new ideas creates distance. Curiosity builds bridges. Judgment builds walls. Attractive people stay open to learning, no matter their age. Refusing to adapt is also damaging. Technology, social norms, and lifestyles change. Fighting every change instead of learning slowly makes someone appear rigid and frustrated. Flexibility keeps the mind young and the personality inviting. Talking only about the past can also push others away. Memories are valuable, but if every story begins with "back in my day," conversations feel one-sided. Connecting the past with the present keeps dialogue alive and engaging. Another unattractive habit is isolating oneself while blaming others for not visiting. Relationships are two-way streets. Making small efforts, calling, inviting, participating, keeps social life active and meaningful. Bitterness and holding grudges for decades is another heavy burden. Carrying old anger shows on the face and in the tone. Letting go doesn't change history, but it transforms presence. Finally, giving up on joy makes a person seem older than their years. When someone stops laughing, exploring, or trying small new things, their spark fades. Attraction at any age comes from aliveness, not perfection. Growing older should increase warmth, depth, and charm, not reduce it, with awareness and small daily choices. The years after 60 can be some of the most attractive years of life. Constant complaining and negative talk can quietly change how others see and feel about a person, especially after the age of 60 when social connection becomes even more important. Everyone has pain, disappointments, and frustrations. That is part of life. But when complaints become the main theme of every conversation, it creates emotional distance. People begin to associate the complainer with heaviness rather than warmth. Conversations start to feel like obligations instead of enjoyable moments. Over time, friends, family members, and even caregivers may shorten visits or avoid deeper interaction, not out of cruelty, but because constant negativity is emotionally exhausting. What makes this habit especially tricky is that many people don't realize they're doing it. Repeating health worries, criticizing daily inconveniences, and focusing only on what's wrong can become automatic. The brain forms a pattern of scanning for problems and broadcasting them. Unfortunately, this pattern also affects the speaker's own mood, reinforcing stress and dissatisfaction. Negativity not only pushes others away, it also makes the person feel worse internally. There is a big difference between honestly sharing concerns and building an identity around suffering. Attractive personalities, at any age, show balance. They can acknowledge difficulties, but also notice small joys, humor, and gratitude. Even simple shifts help, such as pairing a complaint with something positive or asking others about There lives instead of returning every topic to personal problems. Listeners feel valued when conversations are mutual rather than one-sided. Another powerful change is replacing repeated complaints with constructive expression instead of saying, "Everything is terrible," saying "Today is hard, but I'm managing" changes the emotional tone completely. People are drawn to resilience more than perfection. It also helps to develop daily habits that reduce the urge to complain, like light exercise, social activity, hobbies, or gratitude journaling. These practices retrain attention toward what is still working in life. Optimism does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means not letting what is wrong dominate every interaction. After 60, attractiveness is strongly tied to emotional energy. A person who speaks with hope, humor, and perspective becomes someone others genuinely enjoy being around. Regardless of wrinkles or age, neglecting personal grooming and appearance can strongly affect how others perceive someone after the age of 60. But more importantly, it influences how a person feels about themselves. Grooming is not about vanity or trying to look young. It is about self-respect, dignity, and presence. When someone stops caring about basic hygiene, clothing, posture, or neatness, it often sends a silent message of withdrawal and low self-value. People naturally respond to visual signals, and a well-kept appearance suggests alertness, engagement, and confidence. On the other hand, consistently looking unclean, wearing stained or wrinkled clothes, ignoring hair care, or overlooking dental hygiene can make others uncomfortable even if they don't say it openly. Social interactions may become shorter and less warm simply because presentation affects first impressions and ongoing comfort. As people age, it is common to feel that appearance matters less than it once did. Comfort becomes a priority, and that is completely reasonable. However, comfort and care can exist together. Clean, well-fitting, simple clothing can be both comfortable and attractive. Small efforts, combing hair, trimming nails, maintaining fresh breath, wearing tidy shoes, require little time but make a noticeable difference. Grooming routines also create structure in daily life, which supports mental well-being. When someone takes a few minutes each morning to prepare themselves, it sets a tone of readiness and self-worth for the rest of the day. There is also a psychological loop involved. When people neglect their appearance, they often feel less motivated socially, which leads to more isolation, which then reduces motivation further. The cycle feeds itself. In contrast, maintaining grooming habits encourages more social participation and positive feedback from others. Compliments, smiles, and respectful treatment increase when someone looks cared for. This is not about expensive products or fashion trends. Simplicity works perfectly well. Neutral colors, clean fabrics, and basic skincare go a long way. Another overlooked factor is body language. Standing upright, walking with steadiness, and maintaining eye contact are part of appearance too. They signal vitality and interest in the world. Attractive presence after 60 is less about youthful features and more about visible self-care. When a person shows they value themselves enough to stay neat and presentable, others naturally respond with greater warmth and respect. Being overly critical of younger generations is a habit that can quietly reduce a senior's attractiveness and social appeal, even when the intention is to share wisdom or standards. It often begins subtly, comparing values, work ethic, technology use, or lifestyle choices, but when criticism becomes frequent and harsh, it creates emotional distance. Statements like "kids these days are lazy" or "your generation has no respect" may feel true from personal experience, yet they sound dismissive and final to the listener. Younger people tend to shut down rather than engage when they feel judged as a group. Instead of seeing the older person as wise and experienced, they begin to see them as rigid and out of touch. That shift changes the entire tone of relationships. Every generation grows up under different pressures, tools, and cultural rules. What looks like weakness from one angle may actually be adaptation from another. Technology dependence, new career paths, and changing social values are not automatically signs of decline. They are signs of change. When seniors reject these differences outright, they miss opportunities for connection and learning. Attractive personalities remain curious rather than condemning. Asking questions like "How does that work?" or "What do you enjoy about it?" opens conversation. While criticism closes it, people feel respected when their choices are explored instead of attacked. Constant generational criticism also traps a person mentally in comparison mode. They begin measuring everything against the past and usually finding the present lacking. This creates frustration and prevents enjoyment of current realities. It can also make family gatherings tense, where younger relatives feel they must defend themselves instead of relax. Over time, they may limit interaction to avoid conflict. That outcome is painful but common. There is nothing wrong with sharing values or life lessons, but delivery matters. Speaking from personal experience, "What helped me is far more effective than declaring universal judgment. Guidance feels supportive when it is offered, not imposed. Mutual respect grows when both sides are allowed dignity. Staying attractive after 60 includes staying mentally flexible. Respect flows both ways across generations. When seniors show openness, humor, and willingness to understand new perspectives, they become magnetic conversational partners rather than critics on the sidelines. Refusing to adapt to change is one of the most damaging habits that can reduce a person's attractiveness after 60. Not because change itself is easy, but because resistance to it affects attitude, relationships, and daily functioning. The world does not slow down for anyone. Technology evolves. Communication styles shift, social norms adjust, and even family structures transform. When someone responds to every new development with frustration, dismissal, or stubborn rejection, they begin to appear closed off and difficult to engage with. Others may feel they must constantly work around them rather than connect with them. This creates distance and reduces meaningful interaction. Adaptation does not mean abandoning lifelong values or pretending to like everything modern. It means being willing to learn enough to stay connected. Even small efforts, learning basic smartphone use, understanding online communication, adjusting to new routines, send a powerful signal of openness. People are naturally drawn to those who try, even if they struggle. Effort is attractive. Total refusal is isolating. When a senior says, "I'm too old to learn this," they often shut the door not only on the skill, but also on the person. Trying to teach them that moment can discourage younger family members from offering help again. Mental flexibility is strongly linked to perceived vitality. Someone who experiments, asks questions, and updates their habits appears more energetic and engaged with life. In contrast, rigid resistance gives the impression of withdrawal. It also increases daily stress because fighting unavoidable change is exhausting. Accepting that change will happen and choosing a gradual learning approach reduces frustration and builds confidence. There is also a deeper emotional layer. Sometimes refusal to adapt comes from fear of failure, embarrassment, or loss of control. Acknowledging that fear privately allows growth. Learning slowly, step by step, removes pressure. No one needs mastery. Basic comfort is enough. Celebrating small wins builds momentum. Social attractiveness after 60 is less about speed and more about willingness. When someone says, "Show me again," instead of "This is useless," they keep doors open. Adaptability keeps conversations flowing, relationships current, and self-esteem strong. Change is not the enemy of aging. disconnection is. Staying willing to adjust, even imperfectly, keeps a person relevant, involved, and warmly approachable. Holding bitterness and letting go of joy can deeply affect a person's presence and attractiveness after 60, often more than physical aging ever could. Bitterness tends to build slowly, from old betrayals, disappointments, family conflicts, missed opportunities, or unresolved regrets. When these feelings are carried for years without processing or release, they begin to color a person's tone, expressions, and reactions. Conversations become sharper, patience becomes thinner, and warmth becomes harder to access. Others may feel judged, blamed, or emotionally unsafe around someone who frequently brings up old wounds. Even when the stories are valid, constant emotional heaviness makes connection difficult. People are naturally drawn to those who feel emotionally spacious, not emotionally burdened. Bitterness also traps a person in the past. Instead of engaging with what is still possible, the mind keeps replaying what went wrong. This reduces openness to new experiences and relationships. It becomes harder to trust, laugh freely, or celebrate others' success. Over time, the person may not even notice how often resentment appears in their words. Sarcasm, harsh humor, or dismissive comments become normalized, unfortunately. This pushes away exactly the companionship and affection they may actually want more of in later life. Letting go does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means choosing not to let it control today's emotional climate. Forgiveness, whether toward others or oneself, is more about personal freedom than moral approval. Releasing resentment lowers emotional stress and restores lightness. In personality, attractive emotional energy comes from generosity of spirit, not perfection of history. Joy must also be protected intentionally with age. Some people unconsciously stop allowing themselves pleasure. They feel fun is for the young, or that seriousness equals maturity. But joy is not childish, it is life force. Small pleasures like humor, hobbies, music, nature walks, storytelling, and playful moments keep the emotional expression alive and inviting. When someone still laughs easily and appreciates simple delights, others feel comfortable and uplifted around them. Emotional attractiveness after 60 is rooted in softness, not hardness. A person who has suffered but chosen growth over resentment carries a quiet magnetism. Releasing bitterness and welcoming joy again does not erase the past, it transforms the present, and that transformation is something people can feel immediately in your PR. Essence.